Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Well, Judd, these Tuesday State of the Vikings episodes of Purple Daily have, at least like the last few weeks, have turned into these really deep dive, nuanced discussions, strong opinions layered with nuance, and I have a feeling that today will be no different based on the news coming out yesterday of Carson Wentz season-ending surgery here. So we'll get into our various categories: State of the Vikings, the overview, the biggest storyline of the week, least favorite things, after we start the show at Quick Trip here. Let's do this.
Which is where we should always start the show, because it's where you should start your day. If you're watching this right now, look at all of these fantastic options. Yes, this is Quick Trip. It's not a grocery store. It's a convenience store, but I like to call it an ultra convenience store because the convenience is that high. And by the way, if you got a sweet tooth, craving something sweet, step into the flavor of a good old-fashioned bake sale, Quick Trip style. Premium donuts, now just $2.99 for a 3-pack. Choose from, get this, Phil, Fluffy Long Johns, Classic Bismarcks, or Ring Donuts. That's right. Again, just $2.99 for a 3-pack. You stop in, you got the quality gas guarantee. Heck, you can put the app on your phone. I mean, what makes it simpler than the app being on your phone, and you can just step inside and get exactly what you want without any hassle whatsoever. Quick, friendly, effective, all of those good things, and a great place to get breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I'm going to tell you right now, it's Quick Trip. It's that simple. Stop in at your local Quick Trip.
All right. Well, let's start with the overview here. Let's see if I was hoping to hit a football sounder there, but my computer's going to cooperate here. So we'll start with the playoff overview. After the Vikings lost on Thursday and all the other teams have played their Week 8 games, the Vikings' playoff chances are not good right now. Mm-hmm. They currently sit at 4.8% to make the playoffs, according to ESPN's Football Power Index. So 4.8%. It was 12% a week ago, and it was 23% the week before that. So 2 straight losses have brought it from 23% to 4.8%. In terms of division and Super Bowl chances, let's see here. 0.5% chance to win the division because the Packers are, and the Lions, but the Packers specifically are so far gone.
Pulling away.
And a 0.1% chance to win the Super Bowl. That's where we're at right now. How does all that sit with? Does that sound right? 4.8% chance to.
No, it totally does right now. It totally does right now. You would need a big old turnaround, which, by the way, I mean, teams have done before. It's not possible. But every one of those right now, given the circumstances for this team, sounds incredibly fair.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's fair. 4.8% is fair. You look at it and you're like, well, man, if you can, but the problem is you're heavy underdogs against the Lions, and then Lamar Jackson probably back for that Ravens game. Yep. And don't look now, but the Ravens defense in their last 2 games, a win and a loss, has allowed 17 and 16 points. So what was the worst defense in the league for the first month is now doing what they did last year, which is like, okay, we're no longer the worst defense. We're going to be competitive. They kind of saved their season and have a real shot at that division now in the AFC North. So these next 2 opponents are fighting for divisions. They're contenders on paper. And you're walking in with JJ McCarthy just trying to get a full week of practice for the first time, since week 1. So, yeah, until further notice, they don't deserve to be talked about. Playoffs? That's the bin that they belong in right now. It's just It's ridiculous to talk about playoffs, and these percentages reflect that. Offensive ranks. Scoring offense, so points per game, 18th. Yards per play, 21st. And offensive expected points added, so analytically, 28th. So by all offensive measurements in terms of like point yardage points, expected points added, below average to well below average offense. Defensive ranks, it's been slipping and sliding the last couple weeks here. So scoring defense, they're now 18th in the NFL. Yards per play defense, 13th. And what was once, after 3 weeks, the number one EPA defense in the league is now 10th. So they've tumbled all the way down. So not only has their offense tumbled for good reason with all the injuries and the quarterback uncertainty, but their defense, which has been mostly healthy, save for you're going to have some guys banged up, the defense has taken a step back. Where does Carson Wentz rank now? And this will be his final ranking.
In a huge shoulder harness is where he ranks on his couch.
We definitely need to put that harness in the Vikings Ring of Honor after the wars that guy went through.
Did you read? So it's like a harness, and then they wrapped it with like it's a super duper. I've never heard of it's 2025, and you're telling me you had to have a harness that was then basically souped up. With more wraps. It's incredible.
Well, and we'll get to all of it, but like you saw the characterization of the actual injuries that he was playing with. It's crazy.
I'm with you though. Vikings Hall of Fame, right by TCO, needs that harness.
Throw it in there. Yeah, he can sign it. There could be a little plaque of him. The plaque can be a picture of him just like wailing on the sidelines. Oh God!
Worst beating I've seen a Vikings quarterback take since I believe it was Archie Manning at Soldier Field, sacked like 11 times in '84.
Now, I will pause this for a second to tell you, because, I was a little tongue-in-cheek over the last few days on Twitter with my little, like, gladiator memes and stuff, whatever. There's a huge faction of Vikings fans, at least based on, maybe it's just the algorithm for me, that are, like, shocked and appalled at this whole situation. And
I saw the same things, yeah.
Are not going to appreciate us even, like, laughing about any of it. So we'll get into it, and we'll tread however we tread, but... Where does Carson Wentz rank in the four big categories that we measure here? Traditional passer rating, 24th. QBR, 26th. Expected points added combined with completion percentage over expected, so analytically 19th. And his PFF grade has tumbled to 36th among the qualified quarterbacks. So all of that aggregated together, and Carson Wentz is the 26th ranked quarterback in the league. JJ McCarthy, after 2 weeks, was the 33rd ranked quarterback in the league. So through injuries and just week-to-week uncertainty, the Vikings have been operating with one of the worst quarterback situations in the league in terms of performance. So let's get to the biggest headline, which I think it's pretty unanimous, would be just based on yesterday's news, the Vikings' handling of Carson Wentz. And a bunch of there must have been a mass text thread out to the big NFL reporters, and I'll just grab this from Ian Rappaport, Rap Sheet. Details on Carson Wentz. In the first half of the London game weeks ago, Wentz suffered a dislocation that tore his labrum and fractured the socket, per the insiders, NFL.
Yeah. Yep.
So he gutted out 2.5 more games, again, with a dislocated shoulder, a torn labrum, and a fracture in the shoulder socket. He continued to play for 2.5 more games with a stabilizing brace while JJ McCarthy recovered from the high ankle sprain. I will add this is from Kevin O'Connell from last week, why he didn't put Max Brosmer in for at least part of that Thursday game or start him or whatever it may be. And Kevin O'Connell, if you remember, said, Carson is a veteran player. He understands some of our circumstances. I think it's very difficult to ask Max Brosmer to go in there for his first performance and have to be weathering it a little bit for the group. That's all code to say our offensive line is a disaster right now, and I don't think these young quarterbacks are prepared to stand back there. The confidence we have in Max and the upside we see in Max is real. We also don't want to send him out there and force a level of figure-it-outness that's probably beyond a guy playing for the first time. That was kind of where the decision was to continue to go with Carson as long as Carson felt he was healthy enough to keep playing, and the medical team did as well. So you start wherever you want here, but a lot of people, both fans, media, even some former players I've seen, really upset about even just the visual of Carson Wentz.
I agree with that.
10 different times on national TV wincing. So how do you feel about their handling of the situation?
Well, here's the thing. Now, I am seeing that he should have been pulled when he was initially hurt. And if you remember, he went in at halftime in London and got checked out. Brosmer took the last snap of the first half. Wentz said, I can play. He came back and played. And there are some people who are like, well, at that point, he should have not played anymore. Like he should have been. So I feel, as I told you before we flipped on the mics, this is a really gray, murky discussion because look, we know what happened to Wentz, but this has happened to guys before. Like this is not new. This is as I've always said, and I think that we both agree, this is an awful sport. Like it's a brutal sport. Football. It's fun to watch. I love it. But if you for 1 second think that across the board, all of these people involved are like, we want what's best for the human being, they want what's best for wins and losses and to avoid those, okay?
I also think there's a misperception among a lot of fans about how much players play through.
That's what I'm saying, and are allowed to play through. Yeah. So like players will say, I want to play, but what's interesting is if JJ McCarthy had said, geez, coach, I want to go in right now, he would have said, no, we're going to protect you. So it literally comes down to how much do I care about you based on your age, based on where you're at on my depth chart. Like that's a part of this. But where I'd like to start is I do not think that like in the Cleveland game, it was like he should have been taken out right there because a ton of guys say I can play and a ton of guys are allowed to play. Even the Philadelphia game before he put the massive brace on, I was like, well, we don't know what's wrong. Now, in retrospect, if this had been a business where you really cared about your employees, he wouldn't have played, but it's not. But let's get to the Chargers game because that's where I have a problem. Number one, I said going into that game, based on how Wentz was playing, I would have at least given Max Brosmer a start. They did not. Okay, I'm not surprised by that. But when you saw that contraption on his shoulder, and then I believe it was right before halftime, he took a big hit, and he's literally like wincing and crying out and yelling in pain. And I'm like, he's done. He's done for the night. Mm-hmm. And he went to the sideline, and the next thing you see, he's laughing. And I think that might have been the part where he was yucking it up with McCown on the sideline. And when they brought him back in, that's where I thought it was irresponsible. Because at some point in time, I know he said I can play, but you have to protect a human from himself. Like these guys, we can joke about he's a warrior, right? But I mean, you work with Boone and Searles, they're nuts. Like the amount of pain that they put up with and could tolerate and could try to play through is absolutely crazy. But that doesn't mean it's always smart. And furthermore, it doesn't mean that playing Carson Wentz in that second half gave you a chance. So where I'm down on O'Connell on this is at halftime, put Brosmer in and say, you know what, kid, I'll help you as much as I possibly can. We are not going to run our offense. You're not going to have to run a bunch of deep plays. This game is basically done. Yeah. I believe that they were down by like 17 or something like that at half. They're playing terrible, and to your point, they're missing guys. It was just a mess. So what I don't understand is, and this is where O'Connell surprised me because he's a champion of quarterbacks, and if anyone has sort of sold himself as trying to be a good human and a football coach, which, by the way, don't mix, it's O'Connell. So why they left him in and didn't bring in Brosmer to just basically hand off, throw some short passes. Yes, you're going to get hit, but you're a QB. My last point is on McCarthy, because I've seen a lot of, he was nursing a sore ankle and Carson Wentz was dying on the field.
It's true.
It's very true. But again, this is an awful sport. Like, it's an awful business. I can't articulate that enough. It's a terrible business. People do really, really dumb, bad things to try to win football games, and the nature of the sport is just bad. So, and I still enjoy it. But JJ McCarthy wasn't going to play. Like they were going to protect him. What I don't understand, they were not going to throw him out there under those circumstances on what they considered to be not a great ankle, not knowing what they're going to get. And I'll defend him on this. If he had gotten hurt, let's say he goes back out there. Let's say JJ McCarthy. Let's say Brosmer plays because JJ couldn't play unless Max played, and then Max got hurt. But let's just say Brosmer goes in, he gets dinged up, and now McCarthy has to play or is supposed to play. If he twists his ankle or something, do you know what we would do to them on this show and what every show would do? You would fillet him. You'd be like, what were you idiots thinking? Why would you put him in? You need to see him, right? So my whole point is Brosmer should have played. O'Connell made a mistake, in my opinion, not because he played Wentz for 2.5 games, Phil, but because it was just so readily apparent. Anyone with 2 eyes and a heartbeat would have taken that guy out. We joked about it. It's, throw in the towel. It's Rocky.
Throw the damn towel.
Throw the damn towel. It's supposed to be an exhibition. So So, but I do think this is very, very layered. I do think it is a relevant discussion, but I think that if you end up in just a black and white, here is he should not have played 2.5 games ago, I don't think you watch the sport.
I think, yeah, a lot of really well laid out points there, and I agree with a lot of what you just said, and I'll add some some layers and context. I think a lot of people are operating with their reactions to this under the assumption that some parties involved were at odds with these decisions. And I think, this is just my educated opinion, I think the only period of time where there may have been some conflicting feelings from various parties about what was happening was the second half of the Chargers game. His injury goes back 2.5 games and almost a month. But I think all parties involved were pretty much in lockstep. Carson Wentz, how could you force Carson Wentz or leave him out there to die? Carson Wentz is an adult, grown-ass male football player who's tough as nails, who has suffered major injuries in his career. He's on the edge of the end of his career right now, especially as a starter, and he doesn't want to leave the arena. He is a gladiator in the arena, and he doesn't know how much more time he has left in that arena. You damn sure better bet that he wants to play in that game. Yep, put another strap on my shoulder. I can promise you Carson Wentz wanted to play in that game. And of course, okay, you got to protect it. You got to protect him from himself, and it's the team and the medical staff's obligation to look out for the players. 100% true. But that's where Kevin is in a little bit of a no-win situation until the second half of that game, where I fully agree with you, which is, okay, I've got 3 quarterbacks here, and I need to do right by 3 quarterbacks. Well, I could either put in everyone's begging for the mystery box that is Max Brosmer, as if he's not literally 6 months ago, the entire league decided he was an undrafted player. I know he's looked kind of fun in the training camp practices. I do believe there's an upside there. That dude does not know what he's looking at in an NFL game yet. And if he did, he would have started that game against the Chargers, because Kevin O'Connell would have felt like, okay, he was undrafted, but I've seen enough here that the league made a mistake. That would, like, if Kevin O'Connell felt like Max Brosmer, who's not injured, he's 100% healthy, knew enough of what he was looking at in an NFL game, he's supposed to be the third string quarterback, but because McCarthy got hurt, he's been put in this spot, and this happens around the league where he's one hit away. So Kevin's trying to protect 3 quarterbacks in different ways, right? Why don't you put McCarthy's over there jumping over Justin Jefferson as he runs out of bounds? Looks pretty fine to me. Well, O'Connell is looking out for the 10-year arc of JJ McCarthy, and if they wanted him full week and change to prepare for his next game before they hit the start button for good, you're protecting him long term by waiting until the Lions game. And people can argue with that if they want to, but that was the logic there. So, okay, what's option 3? The Warrior who wants to play, it's a non-throwing shoulder injury, and he kind of knows what he signed up for. He skipped training camp consciously. It's a cram session, but he's been in the league long enough where he'll have a better chance to figure it out, even with an injury, than the other 2 guys that we don't feel like are ready to play, with Justin School, Walter Rouse, and Blake Brandel starting along the offensive line. And so all parties agreed, Carson, you good? We're good. Okay, let's monitor this thing. Once it got to the second half, and it was very jarring for people to see him rolling around in pain while JJ McCarthy rests his sore ankle. I get the optics of that are bad. But the mission for Carson Wentz was pretty clear. You're going to come in here, we're going to pay you 7 figures, and you're going to operate within the best interests of JJ McCarthy. And it might be that you don't play a game if he stays healthy all year. It might be that you have to be a shield for JJ McCarthy. But Carson Wentz is being paid 7 figures to do what he did the last 2.5 weeks. And if that makes people uncomfortable, the amount of things that players play through in the NFL, the things that go on in that blue medical tent, the needles that get put in places to get players ready for games.
Yep.
I think with that and the Jonathan Gannon sideline incident, it's like we've pulled the curtain back on a couple NFL things that happened in front of our eyes. And it was like, whoa, what is happening here? Well, holy cow, how could a coach do that to a player on the sidelines? How could you let a player writhe in pain on the field? It's like, these are more common in football. And maybe it's just because these happen in a national spotlight. But
yeah, if O'Connell had taken him out, I think it was right before the first half when he was in just obvious agony. Okay, if O'Connell had taken him out and put Brosmer in there, this discussion, like this report still, because he clearly had this from the October 5th Cleveland game, this report comes out and we're like, oh, that's why he took him out. Like I think there would be a little bit of, well, he shouldn't have played 2.5 games, but I think for the most part, I think it was the second half that was just, and look, I mean, personally, I think it hurts O'Connell because, like, again, he sells himself as a human. He sells himself as a guy that cares. He is a quarterback whisperer. And to leave a guy in who is just clearly, like, watching Carson Wentz in the second half hurt. Like, it literally, we talked about it. It hurt. So I think O'Connell did a little bit, it's not irreparable by any means, but I think he did a little bit of damage to himself as well. Because this is something that you would expect from an old school coach. You just go play. So like I think there's fault here. Again, I don't know if at the end of the day he was protecting, was he protecting Max? And did you see the quote at the end of Seifert's column about this? So there's it's not a quote, it's a report. But Seifert said at the end of his column on ESPN.com, which is good. Go check it out. He said, a person with knowledge of the Vikings thinking half joked that O'Connell left Wentz in the game because Brosmer, who had a strong camp in preseason, might prove to be a better short-term option than McCarthy. Well,
sneaky to throw that in there if you're Kevin, by the way.
And Kevin's very good at that type of thing. But my point is, he talked to somebody who like half joking means I don't know. Like you're in the building, you don't know for sure. But that's the why I would like to get to. Because I completely believe, and I actually agree with this, protect McCarthy. Like, once he starts, he's got to start. And, like, if you get him hurt, again, we would have killed the Vikings. O'Connell would have been filleted up and down. If you put him in
too soon.
And got him in. Yeah. Well, no, he can't play, you idiot. So, like to me, the criticism of JJ not playing or being put into that game is ridiculous. Brosmer, though, I don't know. I'm not buying they were really protecting him. Like I'm not buying that. He is, as you said, and you're exactly right. He impressed in training camp. He's an undrafted free agent. Like if Max Brosmer goes in and God forbid he gets hurt. First of all, Wentz can return. Like if you're like screw it, Wentz can come back because I checked. But the other thing too is that really like, oh my God, Max Brosmer? I mean, there might be something here. So like, I totally buy that a lot of what's being done is being done, including this one too. Like there is a theory that's been floated, which I can't disprove, that the reason why they were happy or that they were willing to bring Sam Howell in is they knew that Sam Howell taking second team reps could not outperform McCarthy taking first team reps. Now, my argument back is Wentz would have taken second team reps. It's not like they would have split up reps. But anyway, to me, the Brosmer thing is more interesting because that's where I think the conspiracy theories about the why much more so than JJ McCarthy just should have played.
So I have a conspiratorial question then to follow up with you on here in just a moment. But MSP, there's no conspiracy about MSP plumbing, heating, and air conditioning. Just straight up fixes for your HVAC system.
So I go outside today to take the dogs out, Phil Mackey, and what do I get? Brr, brr, brr. It's chilly outside. That's right. Fall is here. Winter is coming, and that's why I want to talk to you about my friends at MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air, who are here to ensure your home stays warm and comfortable all year long. Trust the experts in plumbing, heating, and air. MSP is your local carrier dealer delivering quality and reliability. This month is the perfect time to get your HVAC system checked before the cold hits. Because guess what? If you don't get it checked and it breaks down, number one, you're going to be cold. And number two, it's going to be more expensive. When you choose Carrier, you're investing in a system that keeps your home comfortable and saves you cash as well on those bills. So check out the website, call MSP.com or give them a call, 651-615-4292 to learn more about their services and also Carrier products.
Hey, these Pepsi cups here, they're going fast from what I'm told at Buffalo Wild Wings. So you can go into any Buffalo Wild Wings, you can order 12 wings of any style and a Pepsi, and they'll give you one of these Justin Jefferson souvenir cups with the QR code on the side, and you can scan that QR code to enter to win Victor's Ride, your very own Polaris 1000 ATV. In addition to Buffalo Wild Wings, you can also get these cups inside U.S. Bank Stadium and at Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh locations. Buffalo Wild Wings is the preferred sports bar of the Minnesota Vikings. It's the perfect spot to grab wings, sip a Pepsi, watch the Vikes. And Pepsi is the official beverage of the Vikings and Purple Daily. So make sure you stock up your fridge for game day. And if you got some wing remnants in your teeth, then you can call our friends at Park Dental.
These poor people got people walking in with like stuff in their teeth. They're like, "Who told you to come here?" They're like,
That's
"Mackey
right.
did."
That's right. Just go in.
Hey, can
Don't
you
even
clean them
worry
up?
about-
Clean up the choppers.
No, you should definitely like practice your own teeth care routine between visits. But at those visits, and I've had a handful of them now at Park Dental, it's been great. Actually, no cavities for this guy. That's right. I didn't get my first cavity till I was like 28 years old, and then I had a couple. But I'm back on a nice little run here. So, but they'll treat you well. They're very conveniently located, Park Dental, throughout the Twin Cities and Western Wisconsin. There's likely a location within minutes of wherever you live or work. ParkDental.com to schedule your checkup. Okay, so let's keep drilling down on this. We'll get to our least favorite things about the Vikings, but
Sure.
on the Brosmer front. If you don't believe that they were protecting Brosmer, because where I kind of stand is, I agree, there's upside. There's a ton of really interesting traits. Everything you hear about Brosmer as a quarterback mind behind the scenes with the Gophers, with the Vikings, a lot of positive signs for him to have a long NFL career, minimum as a backup. Maybe there's some hope as a starter.
Right.
But I don't think you go from being undrafted in April to stepping onto a field and like, that's such a hard position, even for the top talents physically. And he only played 1 year of major college football. So I do believe that ideally Brosmer is a practice squad guy that performed very well and was a risk to sign with a 53-man roster. So they decided, all right, let's not expose him to waivers. But it's a little risky because if someone gets hurt or two guys get hurt, I don't think they trust him in a game yet, but they trust him long term. You don't buy that. So then, okay, what's your theory on why they didn't play Max Brosmer earlier in that or to start that Chargers game?
I think that they saw Wentz. I think they pushed the Wentz thing. And just to be clear from my standpoint, I think we're in lockstep here, okay? Starting him against the Chargers was cruel, but the league's cruel. Leaving him
wanted to start.
Yeah, and look, I'm like the brace was the first sign of, oh my God, this guy looks like a character from a sci-fi film. But yeah, he wanted to start. He was willing to start. He wasn't showing pain yet. Just as a human, I think the second half was where I have a problem with it. Okay, so my theory though was that they didn't want to bring in Max because one, they wanted Wentz to eat that game. And by the way, for the most part, he did. And two, I think they also had concerns about getting anywhere close to McCarthy because I guess in their mind, if they take out Wentz and put Brosmer in and Brosmer does get hurt, then they feel obligated, which I wouldn't have done, but to play McCarthy. But like, I don't think this was, we're protecting him. I think they saw Carson Wentz as a sacrificial lamb. And yeah. I honestly think they took it too far. And my guess, because I've seen a ton of these, ask the question tomorrow, get them to grovel. And my guess right now, if I was to place odds, is I would say that this will be addressed by O'Connell in his opening statement, and he will apologize.
Yeah,
because the second half, like, there's no justifying the optics, right? Because I think we both see the game pretty similar. And for the most part, so it's like, well, the Philadelphia game he shouldn't have played. Well, first of all, the brace was not huge. We didn't know what was wrong. They did. But he said, again, I can play. But I think it's just, I think O'Connell knows that the pushback, because to your point, it's not just from fans. It's like from former players and stuff. I think O'Connell is going to be very aware that the pushback on what's deemed to be his decision, public relations wise, looks really bad for a guy who has sold himself, as a guy that builds culture and a guy that cares about people.
And here's where I'm gonna join your side of the fence here with either the second half of the Chargers game or the entire Chargers game. And I'm gonna poke at my own, hey, they didn't think Brosmer was ready. They don't think McCarthy's ready, whatever. But the question is why? Why is there not a a 101 version of this playbook, a for dummies version of this playbook that you can, because when I hear him talk about McCarthy needs to be able to do certain things to be able to operate, effectively, or Brosmer, there's some figure it outness, or however he phrased it. Okay, well, you're talking about your offense as you want it to be run.
Yeah.
But like when you're down by 3 scores in the second half of a lost game,
right,
you could literally send Max Brosmer out there to hand the ball off and just take some NFL snaps and get used to standing in a stadium full of, well, not rabid fans in that stadium with that Chargers fan base, but like fans. You're in a
Vikings
stadium.
fans. It's friendly. Yeah. It's a friendly environment.
Is there not a football 101 version of that offense that can be deployed for young quarterbacks or in situations where you have 3 underwhelming backup offensive linemen? And I thought we saw some glimpses of that in Europe. Was it the Browns game? Can't remember which one it was exactly, where he went quick game and it was like some creative stuff, and he seemed miserable talking about it after the game at the podium.
Yep.
So, like, do I trust Brosmer or even McCarthy to operate Kevin O'Connell's full system the way that Kirk Cousins, a veteran quarterback, or Sam Darnold, a veteran quarterback, did? No. That's where there's a gray area here behind the curtain that we just don't have access to, that he needs to find a way to adjust more on his end, it feels like, so that 2 of your quarterbacks aren't unplayable for 2 months.
And I would say that Carson Wentz playing with his shoulder literally now we know hanging from a socket that was fractured, I would say that Carson Wentz also could not execute that. So like it's just you just basically said screw it. And I just think it comes off as a selfish move. I understand saying that you were protecting guys, but are you telling me the second half of Carson Wentz was superior to anything that Brosmer, to your point, handing off, throwing short passes, where's the short game, things like that? At some point in time, unfortunately, you have to abort mission, and this was one of those times. And look, you know what? O'Connell could have learned from this too. Like he's had 2 really good years here, and the Kirk got hurt year was rough, but I don't think it was like this because your starter got hurt and now you're piecemealing things. This was supposed to be JJ McCarthy's year. Very little has gone according to your plan, but that's also a teachable moment, teachable experience. So I would say my one takeaway, if there is something to be taken away from this that could prove to be a benefit, is I think this season is probably full of things that O'Connell hadn't yet had to tackle. And this is one. Because I can't believe that, again, a lost game, that Max Brosmer handing off and throwing some short passes is going to destroy him or get him killed. And watching Carson Wentz try to throw the football, and I know it was his left arm, but I'm sorry, but that's still a big important part of your foundation. I mean, it wasn't there. He was literally throwing with just one arm. So just a lot of things that I think are interesting to discuss and that could come in handy someday as O'Connell sort of reflects on his next move.
Yep. They sacrificed an expendable veteran quarterback who joined late in the process so that they could clear out an extra 10 or 11 days of preparation before they put JJ McCarthy back out into the fire. That's what happened. And it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable to watch in the second half. One last thing on this before we get to least favorite and then favorite things, because I've seen a lot of blowback at McCarthy that, okay, you literally have a guy out there dying on a football field and, your ankle's a little sore. Why your ankle's a little sore?
A ton of those last
I get where that emotion comes from, but once again, if you were to go to all parties involved, let's go to the JJ McCarthy party. If you would have gone to JJ McCarthy 3 weeks ago and said, hey, we need you right now, can you play? He instantly would have said, yes, put me in. Even if he wasn't 100%. Because he doesn't want people to perceive him as being soft or, unready or unwilling to go out there and fight with and for his teammates. That's like he his entire career has been built on being this like leader warrior mentality, right? Yeah. So like they were not allowing him to say yes. They were protecting him in the third emergency quarterback spot the entire time the last 2 weeks.
Which means he was cleared to play, but they didn't want to play him. And plus, like the other factor, and it's been talked about, but there's also a factor of how prepared did they think he was to play if he was healthy.
Yeah,
like
that's a big
when
question.
you spend a week working on a guy's mechanics, that's not like they weren't working on the ankle and that was it. They were working on his mechanics. Like there's a lot at work here. Like if you think about it, we know now the tip of the quarterback iceberg, right? Do you know how much more is probably going on in that building in discussions?
Yeah.
But Phil, to your point too, this is what I think makes this sport so interesting and hypocritical. So we're basically like, well, McCarthy should have played, and Carson Wentz, how dare they? And then on the flip side, we're like, hold on a second, Christian Darrisaw has yanked himself out of 2 games.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Christian Darrisaw? What a wuss! And poor Christian Darrisaw yesterday said, I was supposed to miss a year. I came back way early. Like he has to literally defend himself from being called soft.
Yeah.
And he's coming off not 1, but 2 torn ligaments in his knee. So like, this is where there's no winning at the game because Darrisaw's doing what's best for his career arc. And he probably legitimately, it hurts like hell. And we're all like, you pulled yourself out of the Chargers game, you wuss. It's incredible.
I think maybe like that's a good transition. I have 2 least favorite things, but I'll start with one of them. You just brought it up, which is it feels like there's a lot of inconsistency with Vikings player health situations and how they're being handled, and maybe they have to be because they're different players at different ages with different contracts, different levels of how important they are to the team. But on one hand, you are sacrificing Carson Wentz, and he is willingly sacrificing himself. And everyone's like, all right, we're all good. We're just going to throw him in.
We're going out of the airplane without a parachute.
Yeah. But then with Darrisaw, it's like, okay, ahead of schedule, let's push it ahead of schedule, training camp, preseason. Let's pump the brakes a little. Week 1, week 2, not quite there yet. Well, wait, why were you pushing it through? Why was he running with the ones in training camp in preseason, and then he's not going to play in week 1, week 2? Okay. All right, whatever. I guess he just needed a couple minutes. Okay, then he starts playing, but then feels a little something, pulls himself out of 2 different games. So it's like stop, start, ahead of schedule. Well, I was probably shouldn't have been pushing that hard. But then with Ryan Kelly's a concussion, which is a totally different, that is like, your life could be drastically altered compared to a shoulder injury or something where surgery can just fix
and the league cares about that too.
A lot more, as they should, by the way. A brain injury, you could literally lose 10 years off your life or whatever.
And the league can get sued.
Yeah. But with him, it's like, we're not messing with that. He's just going to sit out, and you might never see Ryan Kelly again. It's possible his career's over, right?
Right.
Andrew Van Ginkel has had some sort of neck, some other maybe things that he's going through injury-wise, and so they are like way hands off on him. We'll see. It's just there's a lot of different ways that players are either being handled or handling their own situation so far.
Well, but I also think that our discussion about Wentz nailed it. I think it's also are you willing to try to play? Now, concussion, they won't let you because the league is literally afraid there. They've been sued. Yeah. So like once money's involved, you're out. Like Ryan Kelly can bag. He's for all we know, he's like I'm good. I could come back right away. And they're like no. But when it's like a knee or something, but we know for a fact that in the case of Wentz, he said I can play. Like he said post game at the podium after the Chargers game that I still felt I could lead the team offensively. It's like, well, first of all, no, but second of all, like. No one was holding a gun to Carson Wentz's head. On Darrisaw, like I would love to know the Darrisaw story. Did the team rush him? Did he just say, you know what? Because it sounds like he was also like gung-ho. Yeah. Is this a surprise now? Could they have laid out a plan in training camp and been like, okay, let's not get, and they tried a little bit, but nobody knew that it would go into week 8 like this. So, but I do think it's partially players trying to push through. And there are some things like necks and brains that you don't screw with. But when it comes to stuff like knees and shoulders, guess what? If you say that you can play, they just might let you play.
Yeah. So and then another least favorite thing, and then you can give me your least favorite thing. We talked a little bit yesterday about short yardage offense, and Alec Lewis from The Athletic had dug up sort of like 4-year stats dating back to Kevin O'Connell's first year. And I'll repeat these, but I'm going to add some more from this year to the pile. The Vikings in 2nd and 2 or fewer and 3rd and 2 or fewer since 2022, which I believe those are two very different situations, because I think 2nd and 2 should be a pass-happy situation.
Playbook's wide open.
3rd and 2 should not necessarily.
Sure.
But he's lumping those two together, 2nd and 2 and 3rd and 2 or shorter since 2022. And the Vikings have the highest pass rate in the league, but the lowest success rate of converting first downs in those situations. But I not to, love that Alec did the research, but I really feel like you have to separate out 2nd and 2. I think you should.
But you'd like to talk to him
second
about
and
it next time.
Yeah. I feel
Alec,
like you can't lump 2nd and 2 and 3rd and 2 in the same thing. 2nd and 2, you should be passing. 3rd and 2, you probably should not if you can gain 2 yards. So I went into stathead.com for this year only, and I looked at 3rd and 4th down, 2 yards or fewer to go. So truly like 3rd and 4th down, short yardage. The Vikings have the 2nd worst conversion rate in the league this year. 35% on 3rd and 4th down, 2 yards or less to go. So 35%. The top teams are like 65, 70%. The Dolphins actually are the top team at 80% in those situations. They're just terrible at everything else, apparently. And it's worth noting that the best short yardage teams run the ball a lot more than they pass in those situations. They run the ball like 70%, 75, 80% of the time in those situations. The Vikings are passing the ball more often than they are running the ball in those spots. The Vikings also have the most punts on 3rd and 4th and short. They've punted 8 times on 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2 or shorter. Mm-hmm. Half the league has punted twice or fewer in those spots. So some of that also depends on, is it at your own 25-yard line or is it near midfield? But the Vikings are very, very conservative. Kevin O'Connell is deciding to punt in those spots.
And the punting statistic basically is backed up by O'Connell's entire coaching body of work, correct?
Yeah.
Since 2022, he does not like to go for it.
Correct.
As much as the league does now, I should say.
Yeah, the Vikings last year for sure had the fewest 4th down attempts in the NFL. So he's kind of, in two different ways, Kevin O'Connell's decisions as a play caller on those short yardage 3rd and 4th down situations are really hurting the team. Deciding to pass more often than you run is hurting the team, and deciding to punt more often than every other team in the NFL, I think, is hurting the team.
I think his designs are really good. And I think with the right quarterback, play calling is really good lots of times. But this comes back to what we talked about in my hottest take on Friday. I think in this situation, I would almost prefer to see him involved in the designs, but not calling the plays consistently. And I know that's an ego blow, and I know he probably, if he gets wind of this, won't like it one bit. But at the end of the day, like this feels to me like he's trying to force things, especially given his quarterback situation, and he can't help himself. And you just need to make it. I saw one thing, I think it was after the Atlanta game, Phil. I saw one thing about how, JJ McCarthy, because of his release, he can't have the short game. He needs to. If he can't have the short game, folks, we're all in trouble. Like if the short passing game, like if you are you literally have to run the O'Connell system as is, like Kirk Cousins did and Darnold did, who by the way had a lot of experience, and you're like JJ McCarthy has to do that. I got a quarterback who's probably going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, if he can't change an arm angle or take a little off a throw or float it on a screen pass, float it over a charging lineman that's being openly allowed to get into the backfield. Amen. So, and that's the thing. We don't know. we haven't seen enough of him to even make it, and they limited his pass attempts as they should have in those first 2 games. So it's like we haven't seen enough sample to make a judgment on whether he can or can't run a layered offense with short game mixed in.
And hopefully he can play and start all of these last 10 games, because the reality is they should limit us passing again a little bit, right? Like I have no problem with that. You cannot send him out there and be, but O'Connell wants to do that so badly. It's almost like he wants to speed up time.
Yeah, right. Which is not necessarily doing right by the quarterback.
No.
Real quick, we're all gonna watch the game together. Actually, that's the wrong graphic. That's the Dublin one. Where's the? Oh, here it is. I think it's this one. There we go.
Train's going by, Phil.
That's right. Train's coming through right now.
Train's coming through. It's Jordan Mason. He's training. He's working out.
It's Vlad Jr. He's gonna make a creative slide. So yeah, we're gonna gather at Mystic Lake Hop House, and we're gonna watch this game against Detroit together as one Purple Daily audience, free to the public. You just have to show up to Mystic Lake on Sunday. 11:30 is when we're gonna start hanging out, and then we'll watch the game together, and then we'll do a live Vikings vent line on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, and also for the in-house audience. But yeah, they just opened up Hop House. We're looking forward to a watch party, drink specials, great food, and gaming fun at Mystic too. But come hang out with us. We'd love to see as many of you as possible as we press play again on the season with JJ McCarthy jumping back in. Should be a really good time. Appreciate Federated for partnering with us here on Purple Daily. Federated Mutual Insurance Company, over 100 years of experience helping small to medium-sized businesses, and also recently recognized by Forbes as one of America's best in-state employers for 2025, and by Newsweek as one of America's most admired workplaces for 2026. It's a great place to work, put simply, and those rewards reflect the long-standing commitment to Federated employees and the communities that Federated serves, not only in Minnesota, but across all 50 states. So if you're interested in finding out more about Federated's work culture, federatedinsurance.com/careers. That's federatedinsurance.com/careers. Listen, Judd, players prepare for game day, and that's why they succeed.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
some of our guys should check their ego at the door and prepare for the bedroom in a little bit more of a productive way.
That's exactly right. And look, guess what? There is no reason to be embarrassed about the following conversation about ED, because ED happens when there's not enough blood flow, often combined with decreased arousal signals from your brain. It's not about age or your competitive edge going away. It's biology, and it's treatable. Rougiette is the 3-in-1 ED treatment that actually prepares you for the moment. What it does is it's designed to prime your brain, boost blood flow, and start working very quickly, up to a 36-hour active window when you are ready. Go to Rougiette.com, that's Rugiet.com, and get your game plan from a licensed ED doctor. Use the promo code PURPLE at checkout for a special offer. It ships discreetly to your door. That's Rougiet.com, promo code PURPLE, and you should not be embarrassed. This is a discussion. I'm 55 myself. Should not be embarrassed. We're all adults here.
That's right.
Or most of us are.
Most of us are. Okay, what is your least favorite current Vikings thing?
It's the gamble that the defense took on Jeff Okudah, and it's a gamble that didn't pay off. It didn't work out. It's my opinion that, 3 safeties has been a great look for this team since Brian Flores became the DC in 2023. It's worked out really well. But it just feels like they're stressing certain guys. And Harrison Smith is still a brilliant player, but he's at the end. They are stressing safeties beyond the norm and the necessary. And not because they want to, but because they are trying to hide Okudah, who when he does play is immediately targeted. He plays the outside. Byron Murphy Jr. goes inside. This is one of the personnel moves defensively that since Flores got here, it's one of the few that has not worked. Like, it was just a bad idea, and it was a first guess. If you look at it, like this team, Brian Flores took Ed Donatel's chicken bleep from 2022, and he did a really good job in 2023. In 2024, they had Grenard, Blake Cashman. Like, there were some very crafty additions, and they all fit in perfectly. It's like, whoa, personnel-wise, this is great. The Okudah one is the first one, and I don't know if they don't think Dwight McLaughlin can play or what, but it doesn't feel like somebody else is getting an opportunity. And so you're stuck with two cornerbacks you trust, one you don't, and you're putting safeties in positions that they shouldn't be in. So my least favorite thing is sort of what turns out at the end of the day to be a cost-saving, cheap gamble on a cornerback who had proven throughout the course of his career since being drafted third overall in 2020 that he was basically a bust.
Yeah. Yeah, they brought him in thinking and hoping that Brian Flores could revive his career and put him in some spots to succeed. Obviously, measurably, athletically, there's a reason why he was one of the top 3 picks in the draft a few years ago. But to reiterate the carnage so far, that is Jeff Okudah in coverage. He has been targeted, according to PFF, 12 times, which isn't that many because they've only played him like 95 snaps.
Yes.
So like the snap counts alone tell you what the Vikings think of Jeff Okudah. Because all due respect to their safeties, they've got three safeties. I guess technically 4 because Jay Ward's played a little bit. But Theo Jackson, Josh Patelis, and then Harrison Smith has been playing more snaps recently. Mm-hmm. None of those guys should be covering one-on-one on the outside. Unless it's like a tight end, maybe. But
sure,
defenses, the Eagles did this. When you have Josh Metellus lined up one-on-one with A.J. Brown, that's a huge problem. And I love Josh Metellus. He's an awesome player. But he's not meant to do that on the outside. He's like a safety who's like a hybrid linebacker almost. Right. And you're putting him in a bad spot. And of course, he does everything, so he just says yes and whatever. But Jeff Okudah has been targeted 12 times so far this season, and 11 of those 12 targets are completions for a total of 175 yards. That's an average of 16 yards per catch and a 146.5 passer rating. There's also 2 penalties mixed in on Jeff Okudah, too. He is one of the, again, whether you believe in or trust PFF grades, I mean, the eye test says enough with Okudah this year and for his career, but he is one of the worst graded players in the NFL so far of guys who've played at least 90 snaps. So they were wrong on him, and they didn't really have a contingency plan. And meanwhile, Mekhi Blackmon is over there starting a bunch of games for the best team in the NFL so far this year. That's another weird one. The Indianapolis Colts.
That's another weird one. It's funny because it feels like there's been a lot of focus on the Harrison Phillips to the Jets trade, right? Like, why did they trade Harrison Phillips? And, okay, fair question. But to me, Mekhi Blackmon, way more. It's like, why did you trade a depth piece? And I don't know if the snaps through the same amount of games are available from a year ago, but I think if you go back and look at this point last season, between Stephon Gilmore and Shaq Griffin, like, it didn't feel like they were ever hiding them.
They weren't.
And they are hiding. And the real indictment on Okudah on Thursday night was he stepped on the field and, like, Herbert raced to the huddle. Like, there was no question what they were doing.
Yep.
And I think it was 3 consecutive shots that ended with the Ladd McConkey touchdown. So anyway, they took a gamble, seemed a little bit dangerous. It's proven to be. And what I think that we've learned is there's no workaround for Flores to fix it.
Yeah, I just pulled up last year. So the Vikings played 3 safeties on the field pretty much all the time in Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Josh Metellus. Mm-hmm. And they've been playing a lot of 3 safety sets this year, lately more with Harrison Smith being on the field too. But the jarring difference is they played 3 cornerbacks pretty regularly. I mean,
and 1 linebacker, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Blake Cashman. And I mean, they had a lot of different players playing snaps last year because they just had like 17 or 18 regulars. But
sure,
I guess what I don't understand is it would be pretty wild if you thought you could be a top 5 defense with only 2 viable cornerbacks on your roster. I just don't see how in a passing league how that would be possible.
Agreed.
So they either thought arrogantly that they could do this with only 2 viable cornerbacks, or they thought arrogantly that no, we have 3 viable cornerbacks. We're going to fix Jeff Okudah. It's like, really?
I think they thought they could hide him. But then that gets back to point number 1 by you, which is that's the arrogance was we've got enough safeties that can make up for the loss, and then we'll play two corners a lot. Either way, they took a gamble, and it was a big one, and it sure feels like they lost it.
Yeah. What is your favorite current Vikings thing?
Well, I'll just go with the headline. JJ McCarthy. We got to find out. It's 10 games left. It's the proverbial low-hanging fruit, but we got to find out. He should be back unless something goes wrong. Hopefully it does not. But, I mean, this 10 games is incredibly important. And the fun thing about it, in sort of a weird way, is it's incredibly important no matter how the season finishes. Yeah. So, like, they could be terrible. They could rebound. They could be average. Either way, if you're a Vikings fan, like, this is must-see TV for games because the immediate future of where this franchise is going at the most important position of sports will be determined. And by the way, I'll throw this one in too. That includes if he gets hurt again. Because if he gets hurt again, that's my biggest concern. Him playing does not concern me. Him failing at times, newsflash, if you think he's going to step in and just be lights out, you're crazy. And look, if he sucks, we'll talk about it for sure. But if you're like, well, he is going to I know it now, the mechanics are fixed. This is going to be up and down. Buckle your seatbelts because the roller coaster is going to be unpleasant at times. Yeah. But it is such an incredibly important piece of where this franchise is going. And it's going to allow you to go into the offseason, God willing, he plays all 10 games, with some clarity on what you need to do next.
There's so much pressure on him right now. It is because the grace period has expired really in terms of I think fan patience for sure. Because ordinarily this is the least patient NFL stakeholders, fans, media, teams have ever been in the history of quarterback development. But even with that, even with this crazy level of impatience, I think most people understand when you draft a first-round quarterback, you got to give it at least a couple years before you start to really make a judgment, at least a couple years. And even then, there's examples staring us in the face of teams that gave it a couple years, bailed, and then that quarterback really just needed a little more time. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, all these examples. So we've clearly learned patience with young quarterbacks. But by now you'd ordinarily have played 20 or 25 games and you'd be at least into that process of figuring out, that Drake May is going to be a stud. You know that Jaden Daniels is going to be a stud. Caleb Williams, I think the jury is still out on him, but you're finding out 20, 25 games. Bo Nix, I don't know if he's ever going to win an MVP. I think Drake May will. But Bo Nix is a good NFL quarterback and will probably be a good NFL quarterback for 10 years. So you're already finding out about some of these guys. Michael Penix, we don't really know yet. We found nothing out about JJ McCarthy other than that fourth quarter he showed a little something, and that was awesome. But Tim Tebow showed a little something once in a while. So you can't. It's not enough to just see it for a quarter. And I would argue it might not be enough to see it for these 10 games. I don't know how confident we're going to be one way or the other going into the offseason into his third year because of all the lost time the first year and a half.
I think the 10 games, though, if he plays them all, start to finish, I think these 10 games will start to give us the idea, right? Like we'll start to see that, because that's what we don't know. We know nothing. We know nothing other than for his career so far in the National Football League, he can't stay healthy, which is a huge concern. That's what's scary. If something keeps me up night, it's not the Falcons game, it's the injuries. We also have to learn this because despite my call for O'Connell to perhaps turn over the play calling for a time period, it's not going to happen. We also have to see how those two work together. That's an incredibly important thing. I think we talked about this on Monday's show. You put Bo Nix on some teams right now, I guarantee you he's not this good.
Yeah.
But Bo Nix is, I guess the insulting thing is propped up. Bo Nix is complimented. How about that? That's not insulting. Bo Nix and Sean Payton complement each other really, really well. And so, if you put Bo Nix on the wrong team, if you give him to a team where the coach is like, this is how I do things, I'm not going to do it differently for you, I think he probably fails. So how does what O'Connell wants, how does his play calling complement McCarthy? What are the adjustments, the inevitable adjustments? We just need to get started here. Yeah. Like we're sitting on the tarmac still. This flight's been delayed forever.
It's crazy. Yeah,
Let's get
it
in the
is.
air. Let's get the bird in the air. Let's see how she flies.
The flight's been delayed. It's like one of those flights where it's delayed for 3 hours and then you board, and then they have to de-ice.
It's that Tom Hanks film.
And then it's delayed again, and then which one?
The Terminal, right? Tom Hanks.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen The Terminal.
He's like he's like stuck in the terminal.
The Terminal. Is it like an old Tom Hanks movie?
It feels like we are. It feels like we are stuck. We can't get
2004. I've never seen The Terminal.
Oh, I'm shocked by that. I thought you were a Hanks guy.
Oh, Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Yeah,
Steven
dude.
Spielberg directed this?
I can't believe you're not familiar with it. I mean, it was right in your wheelhouse.
I thought I was
too.
familiar with all of Tom Hanks' movies.
Well, anyway, it feels like we've been stuck.
Yeah.
And we need to get unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That is definitely one of my favorite current Vikings things is just like, all right, let's get the plane off the ground again. Let's see. We've been stuck here at the airport. The other thing, it's the second week in a row, but he has to be brought up again because he had 9 pressures on Thursday night against the Chargers. Jalen Redmond has been a revelation.
Yep.
You could argue he's been their best defensive player through the first half of the season. He also, if you look at every interior defensive lineman who's qualified this year, he is second among, how many are there? I think over 100 qualified in 125 qualified interior defensive linemen. And Jalen Redmond is second behind only Buffalo's Ed Oliver in pass rush productivity. So like on a per snap basis, pressures, sacks, quarterback hurries, all those things kind of lumped together. He has the second most pressures of any Vikings defensive player, just behind Jonathan Grenard. He's got more than Dallas Turner. He's got more than Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, and anybody else that's been attempting to rush the passer. So they have stumbled into this incredible diamond in the rough here in Jalen Redmond, who was an undrafted free agent in 2023, was on an XFL roster a couple years ago, and is still only 26 and a half years old. So he's a guy that, like, you may have hit on someone. You have to pay him at some point, but
sure,
that might be on your team for another 4 to 5 years.
He is. If they'd known he was going to be this good, they probably don't sign both guys, right? Hargrave.
I don't think so. Yeah.
And Allen, they signed just one. The Hargrave thing, though, keep an eye on that. The snaps are going down. I feel like he might have hit the cliff. It feels like Allen, has not stood out. I'm not trying to say he's been great, but it feels like Hargrave might have hit the cliff hard.
Let's see here.
I think the snaps are coming down.
Game. Okay, so in terms of like snaps by game, he started the season with 45, 48, then 11 against Cincinnati, 40, 33, 18, and 22. So yeah, his snaps have been essentially cut in half since Jalen Redmond started flashing.
Yeah. And I think you also thought, and he did this against the Bears in week 1, I also think there was an expectation that he was going to get to the quarterback more. And you really haven't seen that consistent push since then. So,
yeah. So, all right, well.
But yes, he's been great.
State of the Vikings. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of maybe disagreement or conflicting opinions in the comment section on our commentary on the Carson Wentz situation, the Vikings handling of it.
I feel like a lot of people that are upset about how Wentz was handled, if they knew, if they went to the sausage factory and saw how the National Football League sausage was made, they'd be done with it.
It's terrible.
It's a damn hot dog.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Just enjoy it and don't ask questions.
It's true. Mm-hmm. To your point, and I've heard about this too from people, the amount of how players are shot up before games. Mm-hmm. And there have been, someone told me a story once that there was a player, he was a rookie and he didn't get shot up, and a veteran screamed at the kid. He's like, never do that again. You're an idiot.
Yep. Yeah. It's, there's a culture behind the curtain that is not meant for regular society, and sometimes it spills out into national television, and that's happened a couple times in the last month or so. But we'd love to see as many of you as can make it out to Mystic Lake Hop House on Sunday. It should be a fun time either way, but the only thing that can there's one thing that can kind of bring everything together and fix this broken franchise right now and the negative vibes. It's not the sports dad. It's JJ McCarthy, man. If JJ McCarthy just like hits the ground, and I'm not saying perfect right away, but just starts balling a little bit and doing the things that, you know, that made the Vikings want to draft him in the top 10. If he starts playing really well pretty quickly, even if they lose some games, everybody will feel better about the direction that this thing is headed in. If he doesn't, it's not necessarily that he's a bust, because he might need more time as a young quarterback who has barely practiced, but it will turn very tense, I feel like, in and around the Vikings organization.
But this is partially up to O'Connell as well, right? Like play calling, what you do with him. Like you can make him look, you can manage him to look okay, or you can take the kid gloves off immediately and it might be a disaster. Here's what I want to see McCarthy do on Sunday at Hop House as we watch on big screens, okay? I want to see him take the ball and go like this. Ball in the basket. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones.
And don't give up after 7 carries aren't, break. Sometimes you might need to pound it 12 times and then hit a 40-yarder and go from there.
Amen.
So, all right, he's the sports dad. I'm Phil. Click that subscribe button if you haven't, if you're enjoying this daily Vikings fodder, these daily Vikings takes. And thank you to get it for those of you that have clicked it already and got us to 60,000 subs on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. We will see you guys I think Boone and I are going to connect for some trenches in the next night or two. And then write that down, predictions tomorrow, Thursday, before too long. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.